we have been here joined by eminent panelists from different PSUs. The panel discussion titled Digital Transformation of Public Sectors Aligning with 21st Century Realities. Please join me in welcoming Mr. K.V. George. K.V. George is the Chairman and Managing Director of HLL Lifecare Limited. K.V. George is an IRTS officer of 1990 batch. He completed his BTech degree in Agricultural Engineering from Allahabad University in 1989. He holds two post-graduation degrees, one in Soil and Water Conservation and another from IRA Delhi and MS in Transport from Imperial College London. Mr. George completed his MBA from FMS University of Delhi in 2010. In his career span to date, Mr. George has had several important positions, including Director, Planning Railway Board, Senior General Manager, Container Corporation of India, General Manager and CVO, Center for Railway Information Systems, CRIS, and Chief Traffic Planning Manager, South Central Railways in Secunderabad. Mr. George has been honored with numerous awards like Railway Minister's Award for Exemplary Services in 2011 and GM's Award for Performance Excellence in 2002 and 2004. So please join me in welcoming Mr. K.B. George.
Thank you, Mr. Mishra, for those wonderful words and having invited me onto the show. This is a very opportune time at which Elets is organizing this conference. And I would also like to wish all the very best for all the panelists who have joined along with me. HLL Lifecare Limited, I don't know how many of you have heard about this company, though in the recent times, I think all of you would have. This is the only public sector undertaking under the Ministry of Health. This is a 55-year-old company, and it has now been doing quite well in the last 2-3 years. It's a profitable mini Ratna public sector undertaking. We have crossed the 5,000 crore mark recently. Yes, we are into the manufacturing and services area. We started off 55 years back with contraceptives for the Government of India's National Health Program. That could as the mainstays till the 80s, and late into the 80s and early 90s, we have moved to other contraceptive products, which include the contraceptive pills and the intrauterine devices. And then we also moved into drugs. We moved into blood bags. We moved into manufacturing of sutures. We also have a service portfolio where we have a chain of pharmacy chains around the country in the name of Amrit Pharmacies. We have diagnostic chain in the name of Hind Labs. These are all diversified projects which were undertaken by HLL Lifecare Limited. We also have MRI CT scan centers. We have a company which does infrastructure building for the Government of India, primarily building the hospitals. All India Institute of Medical Sciences are, where HLL's public subsidiary company called Heights is the PMU, which does the project management for all the hospitals. We also have a small chain of hospitals called the Life Spring Hospitals. We also have Goa Antibiotics and Pharmaceutical Limited, which is a subsidiary company of HLL. And we also have a couple of trusts and a management academy. So it is a company which is primarily into healthcare area, and which has been also procuring in the last 2 years a large amount of health-related items for the Government of India's COVID-19 fight. In the fight against COVID-19, the PP kits, the N95 masks, the goggles and the gloves which were required during the first wave of the pandemic, we were asked by the Government of India to procure them for the requirement of the entire country. That was a huge logistics task which we could undertake quite well. And then continuing with that, the ventilator requirements and other requirements for the Government of India. So these were the activities which were entrusted to HLL Lifecare Limited. So this is what HLL Lifecare Limited broadly does. So this is a very interesting area that we are discussing as a panel today. What we understand with regard to digital transformation. I think we have IT experts on this panel. I am not an IT expert per se, but I had the great opportunity to work in an IT company called the Center for Railway Information Systems, the IT arm of the railways, where I was looking after the freight operation information systems for the railways. So we had a team of over 100 software engineers who are working on the various software upgrades required and the new initiatives with regard to the railways, IT thrust. So when we look at digital transformation, or we talk about digital transformation, what does digital mean to a lot of people? If we say that, okay, digital could mean going paperless to somebody, it could mean, being looking into data analytics, it could be, artificial intelligence. These could be the things which digital would mean for some people. But now digital transformation has now become, I think, a survival issue. If the company needs to survive, you need to push in the digital space. There is nothing, there is no shortcut or no way in which you can avoid the digital thrust for the company. The COVID-19 pandemic has actually thrown up a large number of challenges for the industries, not only for public sector undertakings, for all industries, I would say. The supply chain disruptions, the rapid shift in the demand and the supply, the requirement of huge supply requirements at very short notice, the time to the market pressures, the rapidly changing customer expectations. All of us would have been going on the line and then giving more food orders now than we would have done earlier, procuring even groceries through online media than we would have done any time, or this would not have been foreseen by the e-commerce side that such a push would come in the recent times. So that is how the customer behavior is changing, the food habits are changing. And therefore, and also I would say that the spending on digital transformation is also increasing. So when we look at this digital transformation, my idea is that we should have a few components which become the basic basic framework on which the digital transformation can be built. One is the seamless customer experience. That is the hallmark. I mean, that is the key. That is the pillar or pivot on which digital transformation has to drive, which is the seamless customer experience. Then, of course, the operational agility. The agility of the organization to operationally move into a certain requirement at a shortest notice. Number three is the workforce's enablement. You have to enable the workforce to look at this digital transformation. How are you able to engage with the workers and also enable them? And number four would be the digital transformation integration, because all organizations have some form of a legacy systems on their in their portfolio. And how do we integrate? How do we move forward? How do we take the new technology and move forward? So these four basic pillars are there for a digital transformation framework, and all this has to be tied in by the culture of the organization and the leadership's push. The leadership is the main pivot which has to push all these transformation into organizations, and the public sector undertakings are no less required to do the same push as would any other private organization would be doing. One thing which now comes to my mind is that how the cloud computing has changed over a period of time. I'm not very sure whether the public sector undertakings are really started looking at the cloud's potential for transformation. That is something which is coming up because of the legacy technology in enterprises, in enterprise IT, and the issue with regard to the large budget which needs to be spent on maintenance with regard to the legacy IT infrastructure. So how whether digital transformation taking this forward, whether the public sector undertakings have moved forward on that, could be one thing which we need to keep in mind. Now, when we look at the healthcare area industry itself, which I now represent, healthcare has thrown up large number of challenges. Look at the older populations which are now coming, increasing age profile of the population, the travel restrictions due to COVID, the new sorts of pandemics which are coming, the non-communicable diseases which are now becoming more prevalent in the society than it was earlier, staying at home and treatment. So the technology drivers are also changing for healthcare. More and more new wearable devices have come forward in the market. We know that exercise trackers which are there, the exercise trackers and the heart rate sensors which are there. These are all new. The Apple watches which are now getting popular. The 6th generation Apple watches and all other wearable devices which have come forward. The thrust for telemedicine. the new vaccines which are being discovered and needs to be pushed? What about teleradiology, digital consultation platforms, new drugs, e-pharmacies? We all talk about the use of artificial intelligence for for evaluation and diagnosis. We in HLL Lifecare Limited are slowly getting into that transformation, because we have now taken up the uh, what do you call, the telemedicine part and the e-radiology part. We have got a panel of doctors who would be looking at the X-rays in a digital format and giving their guidance. So that is the change which is happening with regard to the thrust which we are doing as a company, the radiology and the telemedicine. And along with that, the major issue which the healthcare industry has is with regard to the data storage and the data privacy. Data security becomes very, very important with regard to the healthcare area. Health, we capture a lot of very personal data with regard to the patients. So how do we store that? Are we storing it in a secure fashion? Is it easily retrievable? Do we have proper formats and devices in which we can store it? And are we now willing to use new business tools and artificial intelligence to look at this data? Can we look at the data with after taking the approvals from the patients who would be subjecting themselves to the various tests in various hospitals? So all these changes which are happening have to be looked at in the framework of the 4 or 5 pillars which I had indicated earlier during the initial talk when I started, which is the ultimately it is the seamless customer experience. It is of course the operational agility. It is the workforce enablement and the digital technology integration, and the culture and the leadership which has to drive these changes to enable proper digital transformation happens in the company, and that would definitely benefit the country as we move forward. The stress has been by the Honorable Prime Minister also for the Atmanirbhar Bharat. So we have done a lot of things with regard to the manufacturing area. HLL as a public sector undertaking during the pandemic actually rolled out a large number of things like digital sanitizers, kiosks for taking COVID-19 tests. We have a walk-through kiosks which could sanitize the persons who travel through the kiosk. We also have a UV box which can be put in houses and in offices to sanitize your books or masks and things like that. So these are all small innovations which have come, but all that is there only for a particular business opportunity which was there and for the need which was felt for the country. However, for moving into the this 21st century, as we move forward, we need to gallop. We need to really take to the digital transformation in a very planned and in a very planned and in a very professional manner, keeping in mind the framework which we require. Especially out of pocket expenses for the clients also has to come down. This I am talking from the healthcare perspective. COVID-19 has thrown up very different figures with regard to the costs being borne by the individual patients who come to the hospitals. Worldwide, the average figure, it is said, is that around 18 to 19% is the out-of-pocket expenses. The out-of-pocket expenses for the Indian rural people, rural population, and in fact, the average has moved up. It is closer to 30, and in fact, in some places, getting over 40% to 50%. So that is a huge amount of burden for the common man. So that is where we need to leverage technology and see how the out-of-pocket expenses can be reduced for the clients who use the healthcare system, or for that matter, any other customer who comes to a company or an organization. We also notice that a large number of people are doing on their own searches on the Google with regard to the healthcare solutions. I think Google itself says that 1 in 18 or 1 in 20 searches in the entire on Google platform is with regard to the healthcare solutions. and we also are into a society where larger number of the younger generation don't have their own primary care physicians, which the earlier generations used to have. So they might look at the information overload available with regard to the various platforms to find their own solutions to healthcare issues or healthcare problems. So that is the change which is happening with regard to the approach which the normal customer is taking to digital, to various activities such as healthcare. So along with all this, we need to look at the how we are making the lives of the physicians work. Streamlining the physicians' work. Optimizing the systems, optimizing the large number of new devices have come, which are much more optimized than it was earlier. We have to look at ways in which we can reduce human error, so that the solutions which are given to the customers are totally reliable. And a new thing which is happening with regard to the digital transformation in the health sector is primarily the virtual reality related area. The virtual reality is now becoming something which is being sought after for the pain related treatment. For mitigating pain or reducing pain for a person, virtual reality is being used as a medium. So this is again a new area of digital transformation with regard to the healthcare. So these are the basic areas which we need to keep thinking or pondering as we move into digital transformation. That is what the public sector undertakings need to really drive and take care of. As far as the health area is concerned, or as far as the HLL Lifecare Limited, it is now a public sector undertaking which is moving forward. And as I indicated, the only public sector undertaking under the Ministry of Health, and which has been entrusted with a large portfolio of activities, which have now increased during the COVID-19 situation. So we are trying our best to use digital help to move forward, and we do have a legacy system, and we are now planning to move into the cloud-based environment as we move forward. So we are taking the challenge head on and moving forward, and I hope the other public sector undertakings, be it Navaratna or a Maharatna or a Mini Ratna, I hope all of them are making very professional and itemized and well thought out digital transformation efforts. And we have a large number of very sound technocrats and people who have worked in this area, whose help we can always take for this digital transformation. So these are my thoughts as we open this discussion. I would like to thank Elets for having given me this opportunity, and I would like to wish the discussion and this conference all the very best. Thank you so much, Mr. Mishra, once again for having given me this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. George. Thank you for this insightful articulation of your thoughts on the digital transformation of India's public sector.